process to reform Jamaica's constitution appears to have hit a snag after the opposition leader Mark Golding declared that he will not support the process going forward unless the Prime Minister Andrew Holness declares his position on the adoption of the Caribbean Court of Justice (CCJ) as the country's final appellate court. Mr. Golding has also published a document in which he outlines some of the things he wants to see in the new constitution that will serve Jamaica once the transition to a republic is complete. That's the issue for discussion this evening on Lead Story. I'm happy you're here. Let's go. Good evening. Welcome to Lead Story here on CVM TV. My name is George Davis. To discuss this important issue with me this afternoon, I have Anthony Hilton, George Anthony Hilton. He's the Member of Parliament for Western St. Andrew. He's also one of the opposition members on the Constitutional Reform Committee, and he's also, of course, the opposition spokesman on investment, global logistics and trade. On the phone is another member of the CRC, the Constitutional Reform Committee, Dr. Nadine Spence. Mr. Hilton, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Spence, are you there, just to ensure?
I am here. Good evening to you and good evening to Anthony.
Good.
Hi there. Hi, Nadine.
Here we go. So the opposition leader has said no ball game because I don't know what the government's position on the CCJ is. But that, Mr. Hilton, I would suggest, is old hat because from last year the government made clear that the issue of the CCJ and the replacement of that court, or replacement of the Privy Council with that court, would not be dealt with up front. It would not be a phase one matter for the committee to deal with. It would come later. The opposition in good faith went on with the proceedings. Why now at this point, when that was a matter from last year, bring it back now to signal that we're not going forward if this is not declared up front by the Prime Minister?
No, that's not strictly the process. The leader of the opposition made, well, first of all, it began when the committee was named.
Yes.
And the leader of the opposition did not name his membership because he needed clarification on certain matters. And among the matters was the CCJ. Mm-hmm. And they met eventually and had a discussion on the necessity for the government to state a position, mm-hmm. because previously and up until now, the government has simply not stated a position, other than saying we will at some point state what it is. When we entered, and so it did, when they left the Vale Royal talk, that's when the leader named myself and Donna Scott Motley as a representative.
Because he got some assurances.
Yes, the understanding was that the government would do its consultation and come to a position and articulate that position. We've been waiting on that since then and now. So now that we're at this stage where the recommendations are going forward, the leader of the opposition said, look, you have still not had clarity. They had the last conversation on this took place about 3 weeks ago, a brief conversation in Parliament on the same matter. The Prime Minister again said he would consult and let the leader of opposition have his position. That position has not been forthcoming today.
Yeah, so I'm happy you explained that because I'm happy you walked through it that way because some people are of the impression that it was always on the table, on the up and up, that the issue of transitioning from the current final court to a new final court would not be done in phase one, as I said. So is it then that given that the opposition leader had this reservation from the start, he said, you know what? Let the process continue through phase one while I allow you behind the scenes to do your machinations to come to a position. But phase one will not be complete before you make that position clear. Is that Mr. Golding's position?
Correct. That's the position.
That's the position. Dr. Spence, from your perspective as a member of the committee, are you uncertain as to when the matter of the CCJ and the Privy Council will come up for discussion?
No, I'm not. I think as a non-governmental opposition member of the committee, when we entered the committee, the terms of reference were clear in terms of when the particular issue of the CCJ would be discussed. the opposition members made it clear that they thought it was a matter that needed to be discussed in the first place, but we who were not necessarily a part of the previous conversations knew that the terms of reference spoke to 3 phases and that the court would be in the second phase. And so, even though the opposition pushed its point, for me, and I was clear on this, the fact that we needed to change our final court was a given. At what stage we did it was a perspective that two differences. JLP would be done in the second phase.
Dr. Spurgeon, we may have to reconnect because the audio is very challenging, and I can't hear the words that you are speaking. So we're going to make the connection once again. Mr. Hilton, so here's my question then. As the committee deliberated and you sat in on those meetings, would the minutes of the deliberations show where you made the position clear that, look, we are here participating, but we are not going to agree to anything that is going to go to cabinet unless this matter of the CCJ is put on the table, notwithstanding the declaration at the top that phase 2 is when that matter will be dealt with? Will the minutes show you representing that position early?
No, well, the minutes are very clear on one thing, that the matter of the CCJ was a continuing concern for the opposition and the opposition members. And whilst the terms of reference was drawn very tightly and very restrictively, and we pointed that out, the terms of reference did include a reference that a part of the role of the committee was to build a consensus where it did not exist. That was an important point for us because we had contended, we knew that we were poles apart going in, but we felt that there was an opportunity to build a consensus, or at least begin to understand what the problems were. I recall specifically that on this question, Mr. Siaga had deep reservation and objected to us going forward. In fact, he challenged the legislation in this Privy Council that we tried to implement the CCJ. But what was different with Mr. Siaga is that he articulated what his concerns were. And those concerns were addressed, we felt, when it came time to negotiate the CCJ. Including matters like funding and all of that.
But you want more than that from Andrew Holness, though. You don't want concerns about either court. You want a position declared.
Yes, we want to know what is their position. The opposition has made... opposition is very clear. You can't get a consensus unless you know what both sides are talking about. It cannot be that one side declare its position constantly, and the other side simply say, niet, 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 and you say, well, why?
Yes.
And there's no answer forthcoming.
Hold it right there. We're talking constitutional reform matters with a member of the CRC, the Constitutional Reform Committee, George Anthony Hilton. Much more after these.
Wednesday, May 20 to 22 at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel with Pastor John Gray, Pastor Travis Green, Dr. Jackie Green, Todd Galbert, Phil Thomas, Minister Marion Hall, Kevin Downswell, Sharon Gardner, Rhoda Isabella, Pastor Junior Tucker, Bishop Everton Thomas, and many more. Join us for dinner, workshop, panel discussions, praise and worship, undiluted word, and concert every night. Mindset Conference. For more info, mindsetconference.org. Get your tickets now.
Hi, I'm Wayne.
And I'm Tammy.
And we are the Mitchells. You can watch Meet the Mitchells right here on CVM TV every Wednesday at 8 p.m.
Yes, you guys don't want to miss it. We will be having new episodes every week, so definitely follow along with our family.
Meet the Mitchell family.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
You're the sugar to my tea. Meet the Mitchells. your family.
After two grueling semi-final matchups, it's a repeat of last season's final in the Ray and Nephew Jamaica Premier League. High-flying Cavalier squaring off against defending champions Mount Pleasant Academy. But before the massive clash on Sunday, catch a special preview of the JPL Super Finals on Jamaica's #1 football show, Football GPS. That's Football GPS, live this Tuesday at 8 p.m. Powered by the Ray and Nephew Super Finals.
Welcome back to Lead Story here on CVM TV. The opposition leader Mark Golding says it's the CCJ or nothing at all, and without the government's position known on the matter, he's not going to ask his members to continue with this process of constitutional reform, this process which has been ongoing now seriously for about 20 years, certainly longer, has certainly hit a snag, that's what it appears to be, and I'm trying to reconcile the issues with two people who are intimate to the discussions of the committee. Anthony Hilton, he's the Member of Parliament for Western St. Andrews, one of the PNP's nominees to the committee, and Dr. Nadine Spence, who is a public commentator. Dr. Spence, we lost you before the break, but I want to reintroduce you with this question. Were you under the impression, or are you, because you're still a member of the committee, are you under the impression that the support by the PNP nominees to the committee of the deliberations of the broader committee were dependent on a position being taken and shared by the government on the CCJ becoming Jamaica's final appellate court?
I think what the opposition members made clear was that they had concerns that if a position from the government hadn't been articulated, they were not sure how the process, the first phase, would pan out. I think that was always clear. They always stated this issue of the seat of the final court needing to be worked out. The government needing to articulate its position. But I'm not quite sure now what the challenge is. Is it that the government hasn't articulated its position, or is it that the final court? So what if the government says, we do not support us moving from the Privy Council?
Well, Dr. Spence, you're taking away my questions, because that's exactly what I'm going to ask Anthony Hilton. Because look, let's examine the record. 2015, a PNP administration brought this matter to the House, but the opposition, JLP then, didn't support it, so you had to abandon this process of constitutional reform where the CCJ becomes the final appellate court. The JLP, the rules have been reversed now. As Dr. Spence has said, what if Holness says, well, at this time, I am not minded to remove us from the tether that we have with the with the Privy Council? What would the opposition's position be?
Well, first of all, what I think is even more important is that he be able to articulate to us in the opposition and the Jamaican people why. Because it cannot be that a matter so profound is of such profound importance as your apex court, your final court, which represent your sovereignty. And we're saying we want to repatriate our sovereignty or to decolonize the arrangement, and you move one institution and leave another behind.
But I'm sure you appreciate, though, Mr. Hilton, that those are two issues, because, wait, let me point out the two. One, you've asked for Holness to declare a position. No, you're saying he should say why. So which is it? You want a position or you want an explanation?
No, both. If you take a position, you need to say why. You simply can't come. I don't think you can come to the Jamaican people and simply say, "Niet, we're not doing it. We're not." Clearly, the Jamaican people, as we do, want to know, well, what are the reasons? When Mr. Siaga back then articulated his concern, he eventually gave reasons.
Yes. So are you saying then that not only must the Holness position be stated and supported, explained, you're saying now that dependent on the explanation and the position, the PNP will then determine whether to continue supporting the process that we started?
Well, that's a decision that the PNP shadow cabinet and the leader will have to make.
Well,
the shadow cabinet
well,
will
what's
have
the
to make that
so
decision.
there's no position of the PNP on that just yet?
No, we don't have, because we're hoping that a view will come forward. First of all,
Yes.
there is not the possibility of a consensus
Yes.
if you don't articulate your concerns.
Yes.
There's, because one hand simply can't.
That is true. Dr. Spence, how do you feel, given the, I hate to ask how do you feel questions, but it has to be one. The fact that so much work has gone into the reform process to this point, for it to be held hostage by this level of jousting between the government and the opposition, do you feel as if time has been wasted, one, and if we've hit a snag that we may not be able to surmount?
Well, we've hit a snag that we're not going to get past. I think Anthony knows that. That is my perspective on it. That over time I grew skeptical because of posturing in the committee. That's one. The second thing is that even though the matter was raised, and I think the opposition has been true to its position, one of the things I think the discussions that we have had is at what point in this process, whether it's the phase 1 or the phase 2 process, or the matter of the Privy Council or Jamaica's final court, would it be the best strategic time to pursue that particular issue? One, it doesn't require a referendum, and two, clearly the opposition, the government, which was in opposition at a particular point, has not yet arrived at a position to support the Privy Council being removed as our final appellate court. I think that is pretty clear that both parties have taken two different positions on the matter.
Yeah.
The question is, how much time, if we really want this reform to go through, what is the best strategy to do so? Is it the government, the opposition saying, if you don't do it, we not support you? Or is it, let us work at building a consensus? That is what the 1995 report had said.
So hear my question then.
We need to work towards building a consensus on those matters for which there was not then a consensus.
So hear my question rather for Mr. Hilton, based on what, consequent upon what you've said, Dr. Spence. The process of consensus building began last year. All parties were at the table, notwithstanding the PNP's expressed opinion that, look, we need to know this position early. That consensus building process now hits a snag. Doesn't the PNP feel a responsibility, given the other more important reasons for constitutional reform, to continue building that consensus process while waiting on phase 2 to come around for the CCJ position to be known?
Let's put this in perspective. In 2010, when we were faced with the Charter of Rights bill to amend the Constitution, the PNP considered at that time, given the history of the JLP's position on the court, that was an issue on which it should take a stand and to say, no, we're not going forward until you declare and we have a consensus on the CCJ. We resiled from that position, and there was an understanding that had emerged that in the period from 2010 till now, that the JLP would consider its position and have tried to build a consensus among themselves.
And they failed to do that.
Clearly they have.
Hear you on that. We have to break and come right back. When we come back, we're going to talk about the issue of understanding based on the statement from the opposition leader this morning. This is Lead Story. More after these.
Yes, man.
How going, sir?
Welcome to my corner office, man.
Well, I'm glad I'm in your corner office,
Yes,
but I'm
man.
wondering if I need to be nervous today in your corner office.
Man, see, I've been ready for swim,
Ready
man.
for the
Come
what?
on, man.
That now.
The truth is, this place has been more than just a corner office. It has been a home to me. But I was always the person up to a challenge, and I tried, and it worked. And
So that was
now
the first client?
First client. And then from that, other parents saw what was happening with him, his progress, and sooner or later, it moved from 1 to now having over 45.
Hi, I'm Celine Gordon, host of Holy Road.
Hey everybody, what's up? It's your boy John Mark Wigan, host on the show Holy Road. Listen, people need to know what's happening in the churches and in ministry in all of Jamaica. It's an absolute blessing. We're really excited to share this.
Tune in to CVM. See it happen.
Sunrise Fitness, brought to you by Your Plate and Nature Valley.
Yeah, so we appear to be at a stalemate where the constitutional reform process is concerned because the opposition leader says he's not ready to play, well, not ready to continue playing ball. They have been playing, but he says he's going to leave the game if the CCJ position is not put on the table right now by the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness. And he published a statement early this morning. The statement came to news inboxes at about 5:55 a.m., pointing out why he believes the government is not committed to building consensus. In the statement, he spoke to a document containing his vision of what he wants to see the new constitution contain and how that document was given to the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, Marlene Malahoo Ford. She, of course, the chairperson of the Constitutional Reform Committee. And he said, Mark Golding did in this statement you're seeing on screen, that it was given to her by Mr. Hilton with the understanding that it would have been shared with the other members of the Constitutional Reform Committee. That did not happen. The statement notes that Mrs. Malahoo Ford went ahead and sent the report of the committee to Cabinet rather than circulate his concerns and his wishes to the CRC members. And he believes that this is a sign that the government is not willing to play fair. I ask you, Mr. Hilton, I put this issue to the Legal Affairs Minister earlier today, and she says that she's shocked that you spoke about an understanding that she would share the document with the CRC members, because she could have given you no such impression.
No, but that's shocking to me because that was a point of discussion in the meeting. The CRC meeting of May 3rd spoke to the fact that the leader of opposition should comment. First of all, we made it very clear that the process could not be completed without the leader of opposition and the shadow cabinet. We didn't say the shadow cabinet, but he has a shadow cabinet.
But she says that you told her that, yes, you were in discussions with the opposition leader, but you were waiting on additional comments. So she said she didn't get any document from you with the understanding that she would share it with the committee.
No. So the first question is, did she get a document? That was sent to her on Friday, the 10th. Of May.
And you sent that to her?
Yes, I sent it to her.
With the understanding that she would share with the committee members?
I would not.
That's the key part, though.
No. It cannot be the key part. Why else? This is a matter that was being discussed in the CRC. I made reservations on some issues. Reservations on some issues. This is after we made it clear that the leader had, and the shadow cabinet, his team had to comment on the document. We had to see the document. Those documents were embargoed up until May 3rd.
Yeah.
May 3rd was the first opportunity I was given to take a copy to the leader.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I have to ask Dr. Spence. Dr. Spence, was it your understanding as a member of the committee that this document from the opposition leader was to have been transmitted to you all for your consideration via Mr. Hilton from Mark Golding?
Until this morning when I heard it in the press, The last conversation we had, which was at Wednesday's meeting, what Mr. Hilton can recount the discussions at the table. And it was that he had received a document from the leader of the opposition, but he was at that time unwilling to share, or unable to share because he needed to apprise himself of the content of that. That was the last conversation that we had about a document. At the time, nothing was shared that was in the document.
Yes.
And so the CRC was unaware that, of course, what he said is right, that the matter of, for example, the impeachment bill that the leader of the opposition had apparently tabled in the parliament as a private member's motion. That had been mentioned before in the discussions in the CRC.
But you weren't prepared for a document from Mark Golding on Friday for your consideration. You're saying no to that?
No, because remember, we should have signed this 2 weeks ago.
Yes, so help me here.
Please. Mm-hmm. A timetable was set out as to when the signing should take place.
Yes.
We made it clear at the April 10th meeting, and the minutes, please refer to the minutes of April 10th. That will stated very clearly what the opposition position was, which is that we could not sign a document until it was shared with the opposition and the cabinet, the shadow cabinet leader of the opposition. Yes. And so that position was made very clear. The documents, up until that time, we were going through the documents, making correction on the final document. We were not allowed to share those documents until the meeting of May 3rd.
Yes.
Now, if April 10th is the signing, we made clear that we couldn't sign without the opposition leader seeing the document. How come on May 3rd is the first time I'm being given the opportunity to take the document?
But more to the point, I'm saying to you, I'm putting it to you again. Mrs. Malahoo Fort has said, well, clear to me, I don't know if clear to anybody else, that the argument in the opposition leader's statement that you gave her the document with the understanding that she would share with the members, and because she did not share it, he was now not certain about the government's sincerity. She's saying not so. It's not my words. She's saying not so.
No, but please, this is easy to follow. This is a matter in discussion in the CRC. This was not a private conversation between
But a member of the CRC has said it was not her information that they were to expect a document to be shared from the opposition leader via your transmission.
No, that cannot be so, because at the meeting of May 8th, the leader had by then commented on a document, but that was not even the final document. He commented on the document.
That was what we discussed, that was what we discussed in the committee.
But please, allow me to finish my point. Allow me to finish my point.
Unfortunately, there's almost no, well, there's no time left, Mr. Hilton. So I